As you are listening to this, I imagine your social media feed is full of summer in all its different forms. Holidays, packed plans, people talking about how they're batching content for weeks on end, people saying they're switching off completely, and people basically doing all of the things that somehow start to make you question whether you are doing summer right or whether you have already messed it up so spectacularly that it's just going to be a disaster. So if there's one thing I want to leave you with before this podcast takes its annual summer break, it is this. Your summer doesn't have to look like mine, your business besties, or the one you've been watching unfold on Instagram. Maybe you've spent the last few weeks getting beautifully organised. Maybe your plans have completely unravelled thanks to life, the heat waves, unexpected curveballs, or simply not having enough hours in the day. Neither is wrong. They are just the way life goes sometimes. This episode is your permission slip to stop asking what everyone else is doing this summer and start asking what you, your family, your business, and your life actually needs. But before we dive in, if you are new here, hi, I am your host, Becci. I am a multi-award-winning business owner and the dreamer behind the Boss Your Socials Club. I created this podcast to help women like you simplify your life and grow a business on your terms without the overwhelm. So if you are ready for some no BS advice, practical tips and honest chats that make business and life feel lighter and more doable, then you are in exactly the right place. Right then, let's get started with this week's episode. And just like that, this is the last episode before I take my usual summer break and stop the podcast for the school holidays. And if you've listened for a while, you will know that this isn't something that's been added in later on or something I've had to figure out how to justify. It's just always been how I've structured the podcast right from the very beginning to run in term time only, because I wanted it to fit around my life and not require me to constantly fit my life around it. Which again, if you've listened for a while, you will know is something I am really passionate about, not just doing myself, but encouraging and supporting and helping and giving permission almost from more and more women to do it too. I do it like this because I wanted the freedom to be present during the school holidays, to slow down a little bit and to actually enjoy the time with my kids without constantly thinking about what I need to be recording or planning next or running myself into the ground before the school holidays to get them all batched. And that doesn't mean that everything stops. It doesn't mean I disappear completely. It just means I make different choices for this season and this time of year because they fit what my life looks like right now. In a few years, I might make different decisions because my kids will be older and maybe I won't be taking the whole summer off. Or maybe I still will because I've earned it and I just get that time to myself. But whatever, I get to make the decision for what it looks like. And I've always set it up that way. And I've always been really deliberate and intentional with that. And I think that really matters, especially when we're talking about summer, because over the last few episodes, we've been talking quite a bit about preparing for it, thinking ahead, batching content, creating a bit more breathing room where you can. And I really hope that those conversations have been helpful in some way. But I also think it's really important to say before we head into the break that none of those episodes were ever meant to be instructions. They weren't a checklist. They weren't a this is how you do summer properly guide. They were just ideas and they were just something that was there maybe for inspiration. Things that might help if they fit your life and things that you can completely ignore if they don't. Because I think what often happens without us even noticing is that we take ideas that we hear on podcasts or we see on social media or where we hear from friends talking about it and we turn them into rules. We turn them into things that we should be doing. And if we're not, we're somehow doing it wrong. And then suddenly we're measuring ourselves against them instead of just seeing them as something to support us if we need it. So you might have listened to some of the recent episodes and thought, yeah, I'm going to get really organized before the holidays. And maybe you've done loads of it and you're feeling quite good going into summer. Or maybe you've had every intention of doing it and life just happened, because it does. And my God, I can tell you that life has been happening to me recently. My plans have been thrown off track more times than I can tell you. There were school events and heat waves and tired children and work taking longer than expected. Personal stuff going on, general life admin that never seems to stop appearing no matter how much I try to stay on top of it. And I am sure that so many of you have been the same. And if you are the same, you might be sitting here now feeling like you're already behind before the summer has even properly started. And I just want to say that I don't think you are. I think you are probably just living in reality, which rarely fits the neat timeline that we imagine when we first start planning things months in advance. And I also want to say that I am in exactly that place now. Like I said just now, things have genuinely been thrown off track. I haven't got the things I wanted to get done, but I don't feel like I'm behind because I've got myself to a place where I give myself permission for that to be okay. But I think so many people don't do that. I think I see so many people where they are doing this thing where they build this picture of summer in their head long before it arrives. They imagine everything being done, everything being organized, everything feeling lighter than usual. They imagine the business ticking along, the house feeling calm, the children being entertained in this effortless way, and us just floating through 6 or 7 weeks feeling relaxed and on top of everything. And that's just not real life, is it? Because real life turns up and real life is never, ever that still. Real life has heat waves where nobody wants to do anything except lie in front of a fan. Real life has unexpected expenses and broken routines and personal stuff and tired mornings and evenings that just don't go to plan all the time. Real life has work that still needs doing and children who still need you and washing that somehow multiplies overnight. And before we've even started, we can find ourselves comparing the life we are actually living with the one we've imagined that we'd have, and we feel like we're falling short. When actually nothing has gone wrong at all. It just hasn't matched the version we've made up in our heads. And I think that's where so much of the pressure comes in, especially at this time of year, because it can feel like there's a right way to do summer floating around everywhere you look. Social media is full of it, even when it's not trying to be. Like I said, I might have been one of these people, and I definitely wasn't trying to be. It was just about giving ideas and inspiration. But if we are falling behind or we're not quite where we want to be, we can easily see the negative in social media, even if what's being posted isn't being posted with negative intent. We see these beautiful days out, slow mornings, organized content plans, tips and advice about how to have a slower summer, people talking about switching off completely or staying visible consistently or making the most of every minute. And then all of it blended together creates this feeling that you should be doing something slightly different to whatever it is you're currently doing. But I don't actually think most people are trying to copy what they see. I think most people are just trying to figure out if they're doing all right, if their version of summer is acceptable, if their life is acceptable. And that is a very different thing, because there really isn't a universal way to do summer. There isn't a universal way to do anything. But in the case of summer, there is just your summer. There is your energy, your circumstances, your finances, your family dynamics, your business needs, and everything else that makes up your actual life right now. And no one else can tell you what that looks like, because everybody is different. It might for you now mean that you're working more than you thought you would be over the summer because things didn't get finished beforehand, or because that's what your business needs right now. Or it might mean that you're working less, even if things didn't get finished, because what you need right now is space more than having everything ticked off your to-do list. Or it might mean that you're somewhere in between, where some weeks feel productive and structured and others feel completely unplanned and messy. And none of that is wrong. It is just different responses to real life. And for me, that is a bit I keep coming back to. And that is a bit I am really passionate about. This idea of alignment, not in any perfect, curated or polished way, just in the simplest sense of checking in with yourself and asking, is this working for my life as it actually is right now? Maybe not even how it actually was last week, because maybe something has changed from then, but just checking in with yourself and not looking at the version you wish you had or the version that you had planned for, not the version that you think you should have, but the one that you are living right now. Because the moment you start asking that question, you move away from comparison and you come back to your own reality, which, let's be honest, is the only place any of us should really be making decisions from anyway. And I know that I've shared quite a lot over the last few episodes about how to prepare for summer. And I really do genuinely hope that some of those ideas have been helpful for you and they've made things feel a bit easier or more spacious for you. And I really hope I haven't been that person that's been making you feel like you are falling behind. And if I have, that is exactly what this episode is about. I am here to tell you that anything I have said, whether it be on social media, in a conversation, or on this podcast, it was never meant to be a rule book. They were just options. They were just tips, advice, and inspiration from my own experience of things that have helped me. Things you could take or leave depending on what season you're in, or even depending on what time you were listening to the episode, because it might be that by the time you listen to the episode, you just didn't have the time to fit it in. You might have been listening in Scotland and you might have already been in the summer holidays. Who knows? Maybe you listened and implemented loads and you feel more prepared now, and that would be amazing. I would really, really love it if that was the case. Maybe you took 1 or 2 ideas and that was enough. Maybe you meant to come back to it and never quite got round to it because life got busy and curveballs got thrown your way. Any or all of those are completely fine. There isn't a better version of that. And I think sometimes even the effort of trying to prepare gets overlooked because we only ever measure ourselves against what we didn't get done rather than acknowledging what we did manage in the time and the energy that we had. So if you are heading into summer feeling like things are unfinished, I don't think the answer is to judge yourself for that. I don't think that helps anybody. I think it's just to notice it and then decide what actually matters right now. Because you might decide some of it is still worth doing, even if it looks different to how you originally planned it, and you'll just fit it in where you can over the summer. Or you might decide that some of it can wait until September, even if that feels slightly uncomfortable right now. Or it might be a mix of both. Again, any or all of those are valid. None of them are you doing summer wrong. They are just you responding to your actual life instead of the ideal version of it or the version that you think you should be having because of something you've seen on social media or listened to on a podcast. And I think that's really what I want to leave you with as we head into the summer and the summer holidays. We spend so much of our time waiting for life to calm down before we let ourselves properly live it. We tell ourselves that once things are less busy, or once this season has passed, or once everything is more organized, then we'll slow down, we'll enjoy things, and we'll feel more in control. But life rarely gives us those perfect moments and those perfect pauses. It just keeps moving into different versions of busy and calm and everything in between. So instead of waiting for the perfect version of summer to arrive, this episode is a permission slip, if you need it, to work with the one that's actually here for you right now. Even if it's messy, even if it's different to what you imagined, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. Because this is your life. It is not the ideal version of anything. It is not a curated version of anything. It is just yours. And you don't need to match anyone else's version of summer in order for yours to count and in order for you to have a brilliant summer. So with that in mind, I'm going to wrap up this season here. If this has been what you needed to hear, then take it as your permission slip to do things your own way this summer. And honestly, beyond that as well, because it's not really about one season. It's not really about the summer. It's more a reminder of how easy it is to slip into doing things how we think we're supposed to, rather than how they actually fit our life. And I do think the more we actually talk about this kind of thing with the people around us, the more it starts to normalize it. The more it starts to normalize it, it's okay for everything to be done differently depending on what suits you. Because it's one thing listening to it here, but it's another thing saying it out loud to a friend, saying, I'm not doing it like that this summer, or this is what works for me right now. The more we do that, the more we realize how many of us are quietly trying to do the same thing in completely different ways, and how much pressure just lifts when that becomes more normalized. If you know someone who might need this, someone who's maybe feeling a bit behind before summer has even properly started, or comparing their version of things to what they're seeing everywhere else, then please, please, please send this episode to them. As I always say, and I'm not just saying it, it always means a lot, and it helps these conversations reach the people who probably need a slightly different or a slightly lighter way of thinking about things right now. In the meantime, I hope you have the most incredible summer. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect to be full of memories, and it doesn't have to be perfect to be amazing. That's it from me for this season. I will be going off on my summer holidays. I am sure they will not look like how I have mapped them out to be. I'm sure many a curveball will be thrown my way, but I know that I will still have the most wonderful time if I'm just kind to myself about it and don't put too much pressure on myself. So I will be back in your ears in September, and I hope you have the perfect summer for you. Thank you so much for listening to Show Up and Be Heard, but please don't go without telling me your name. I genuinely love meeting new people and making new connections. If you don't already, I would love it if you would come find me on Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook and drop me a message to say hello and let me know what you thought of the episode. The link to all my socials are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode or found it useful, then I would really appreciate it if you could take just a few minutes to give it a review on whatever platform you are listening on, because everyone I get really does make me do a little squeal and a little happy dance. Finally, more than anything else, please always remember that realizing you're not actually meant to do this stuff alone is the first step to making it easier. I will see you next time.